Hey everyone, I'm Abby Sharp. Welcome to Abby's Kitchen. In today's What I Eat in a Day YouTube review, we'll be looking at Remi Ashten from the popular YouTube channels Miss Remi Ashten and Rem Life. Now, between her two very successful channels, Remi has a massive following with around 400 million total subscribers. While she shares everything from DIYs, shopping hauls, and apartment tours, a lot of her recent videos talk about her weight loss journey and how she managed to lose and keep off 60 pounds. She also shares that she recently found out that she has PCOS, so I will be keeping that diagnosis in mind as we go through the review. Now, before we get into the video, a quick reminder to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so that you don't miss out on any videos. Also, my general disclaimer that the information in this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only, and to always speak to a healthcare provider and dietitian about your unique needs. Also, while we do watch an entire workday's worth of content, we cannot catch a YouTuber's entire catalog. So please keep in mind that what you see may not fully reflect a full creator's diet. Finally, I ask that we be kind in the comments, both here and on Remi's channel. Let's keep this a supportive learning space. Okay, let's kick things off with her video on what I eat in a day to lose weight, which, heads up, was sponsored by the weight loss app Noom. If you haven't watched my video on Noom, I suggest you definitely check it out right here. And yes, I too have been asked to plug Noom on my channel, and obviously, I respectfully declined. Let's see what Remi is having as her pre-workout.
I am about to drink some pre-workout. This is the Pink Guava Alani Nu pre-workout. A scoop of this, and then before I take my pre-workout, I always have a split, which is a little like peanut butter and grape jelly little mixture.
Okay, so Remi is kicking her day off with a pre-workout supplement that combines L-CITRULINE, MALATE, beta-alanine, L-tyrosine, caffeine, and L-theanine. She's also having a split snack, which contains the good fats from the nut butter and some simple carbs from the grape jelly. This is an awesome sounding snack. I mean, we've got carbs, protein, and fat all in one. And who doesn't love PB&J? As for the pre-workout, we do have some research to support L-citrulline, beta-alanine, and caffeine for activity enhancement, L-tyrosine for responding to stressors like exercise, as well as a combination of caffeine and theanine for their synergistic effects at promoting cognition and attention. These admittedly are not huge impacts, especially for recreational exercisers, so it may or may not be worth over $1 per serving. But hey, if Remi finds this helps her get the most out of her workout, I don't think that it necessarily hurts. Just a heads up though, that I looked up this brand on 4 different third-party testing sites and I didn't see it come up, so I can't really speak to whether or not it's being analyzed for impurities or accurate labeling. But anyways, let's move on to our breakfast.
Add cinnamon to my apples and peanut butter. Not only does cinnamon taste good, but also it's great to help boost your metabolism. So I made a mess and there's tons on there, but I love a
Okay, this looks like a pretty delicious looking breakfast. You know, I love me some everything bagel spice, but I would say that this is a pretty low carb breakfast for a post-workout meal, as ideally we would want to see a 3-to-1 carb to protein ratio for optimal recovery. So we could add in another piece of fruit or pop the hard-boiled egg onto a slice of bread, lots of options. But otherwise we do have fat, we've got protein, we have some fiber-rich carbs, looks pretty good. As for her claim that cinnamon boosts metabolism, this concept really took off a few years ago when a study found that exposure to cinnamon oil increased thermogenesis, aka calorie burning, in mice and for humans. But the study actually looked at fat cells, not actual human bodies, which doesn't always translate. Another study on actual humans found that it helped to reduce the risk of metabolic syndrome, but the dose that they were given was 3 grams every day for 3 months, which is over a teaspoon a day. I love cinnamon, but that is a lot of cinnamon. And it's unlikely that putting a little cinnamon on your breakfast every once in a while is going to have any kind of huge clinical impact. Let's take a look at lunch.
This is a salad that has chicken and I think like roasted veggies. There's zucchini, there's tomatoes, asparagus, avocado. There's corn, just a bunch of random vegetables. I'm gonna eat this for lunch.
Okay, so this is another relatively light, low carb meal. We've got a substantial amount of protein from the chicken, lots of fiber from all of the different vegetables, and some fat from the dressing. But we are definitely missing our carbs. And I do know Remi is trying to lose weight, but throwing in some chopped sweet potatoes or berries, or even serving it with a little piece of whole grain bread or pita would add in those slow burning carbs her body is probably really craving, considering that we haven't had a lot all day. I do, however, like that she's just listening to her body, and if she doesn't finish her salad now, she says that she'll finish it later on.
And I fill this up like 15 times a day, chug it all day long.
Okay, so Remi says that she fills that water bottle up like 15 times a day, but I do hope that that's like an exaggeration, because that would mean over 11 liters. Yikes. If that were true, I don't know that we would see any content from Remi, because she would be either drinking water or she'd be on the toilet. And as a pregnant person who spends a lot of time going pee, I cannot imagine that that would be very fun. And while hydration is of course so important, remember that there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. And an excess of water, aka hyponatremia, can actually be fatal. So I do hope that the 11 liters isn't her actual water routine. Let's take a look at snack.
It's just a nectarine, which nectarines are not in season right now, so this one's honestly not that good. It's kind of like hard. But a nectarine during summer when it's really soft is the best.
Awesome snack. I mean, you'd think that this girl watches my videos for tips, but we've got a nice combination of fat, fiber-rich carbs, and protein, and it's super easy, it's fast, and it's satisfying. Let's hit up dinner.
I have my turkey burger on the lettuce. On top of the turkey burger, I did a little slice of raw red onion, some tomatoes, and then the grilled onions on top. I have a few strawberries on the side, and this is going to be my dinner.
Yum, I love a good burger, but again, I'm missing my carbs, and 4 little strawberries just isn't providing very much. In fact, this meal as a whole isn't providing a whole lot, with only 275 calories. Yes, we have a solid amount of protein, a little fat from the cooking, and a little bit of fiber from some of the vegetables, but there's definitely room for a whole grain bun. Even a half a bun would give us something, or if not, we could for sure have some more fruit for dessert. Let's take a look at day 2.
This is what we're having. I made some banana chocolate pancakes. I was craving something sweet. 2 scoops of protein with 1 large banana, a 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, and 2 eggs. Topped it with raspberries, some of this pancake syrup, and then an egg, avocado, and papaya, hot lemon water.
Okay, so this is a relatively balanced meal. We've got some protein from the egg and the protein pancakes, carbs and fiber from the berries and papaya, and some fat from the avocado and egg. I think that there's still room for a little bit more fruit or a piece of toast. So if she was looking to avoid the added sugar by using the 0-calorie syrup, she could also like mash some raspberries with some chia seeds to make a little chia jam. I will leave my super popular recipe below if you're looking for some inspiration. But let's take a look at lunch.
Kale that I massaged with some olive oil, some leftover sweet potatoes from last night, 1/4 of an avocado, 1 shallot thinly sliced. I mixed some of that vegan garlic dip with water to thin it out and used it as a dressing, pepper, red chili flakes, and some crushed up almonds.
This looks like a delicious salad, and I love that it's plant-based. We've got a good amount of fat from the olive oil, nuts, avocado, and the garlic dip, a little carbs from the sweet potato, veg from the kale, and bits of protein from here and there. Now, in a perfect world, I would say for the amount of fat, which is largely really healthy fat and probably really satiating, I would also love to see, a bit more carbs. And if we want to focus on this meal specifically, the protein is also a little low. But since we had a really protein heavy breakfast, in the context of her day, protein is definitely not a concern for me. I do think that there's space for a little complex carbs with some, throw in some quinoa or some more sweet potatoes, or adding in an extra piece of fruit. But let's see what else she has to say.
If you guys have never tried Liquid IV, I am such a fan of it. Basically, if you put it into like a 16-ounce glass of water, it gives you the same amount of hydration as if you were to drink 3 bottles of water. So that's really cool. I'm super stoked to try this flavor, and I cannot wait to try it.
Okay, so according to Remi and Liquid IV's website, this yummy product apparently triples the hydration factor by utilizing cellular transport technology, a trademarked term, of course. Now, the theory is based on the fact that added sodium, potassium, and sugar into the water helps create an osmotic force to deliver fluids to your bloodstream faster. This is based on the WHO's guidelines for oral rehydration solutions used in developing countries, so it's not like the science isn't sound, but it's not necessarily that 1 bottle of water magically becomes the equivalent of 3. If you look at the fine print, it's actually just that it may provide hydration 2 to 3 times faster. This may be really important in third world countries in the heat, but I don't really understand what Remi needs this super speedy hydration for, especially because these will cost you about $2 per serving. Even if it did give you 3 times the hydration, water in America is free, right? Anyways, I'm just teasing. If you love it, girl, you love it. Let's take a look at dinner.
The taste of them. So I have 2 different brands here. This is the Thrive Market. This is Miracle Noodle. They're both fettuccine. So we're gonna do that with some ground turkey. I'm currently sauteing up some onion. I think I'm gonna make it sort of like a basil-y creamy sauce.
Okay, so I'm definitely glad we've got some protein from our turkey and nutritional yeast, some fat for cooking in, and the garlic sauce, and lots of fiber-rich veg from the mushrooms, onion, and spinach. You know, I'm not into cutting out full food groups, so I do think that there's definitely room for some actual noodles or a piece of bread for like sopping up that extra garlicky sauce. But it seems like she actually really enjoys these shirataki noodles, and this doesn't feel necessarily restrictive to her. At least she is getting a good amount of fiber and isn't compensating with crazy protein portions or saturated fats. So if a lower carb diet works for Remi, then it works for me. A quick note on these shirataki noodles, which, as Remi says, is an acquired taste and one that I have not acquired personally. But basically, these are long noodles made from a fiber called GLUCOMANNAN and water. Some versions also have a little tofu or other flours, but all of them are really low in calories. I mean, this one has just 40 calories and just 4 grams of carbs per bag. Now, aside from potentially helping with calorie cutting because they are so low in calories and fiber rich, glucomannan fiber has also been shown to help delay stomach emptying, which allows blood sugar and insulin levels to rise more gradually and evenly. So while this may have benefits for people with PCOS and with insulin resistance in general, I don't believe that you need to go carb-free to lose weight or even to manage your PCOS. I actually discuss this in a little bit more detail at the end of this video, so skip forward if you want to see, but you should also check out my video on PCOS and dieting here. Again, if this is a food Remi truly enjoys and doesn't feel restrictive, then I don't see this as a big deal. Let's take a look at day 3. And in this video, it's basically less of a legit what I eat in a day video and more of a collection of meals that Remi has put together morning through night that she says has helped her lose weight. So let's take a look.
Okay guys, there you have it, my protein coffee for breakfast. It's seriously so good.
Okay, I'm not sure if she's suggesting that this combination of just protein powder and coffee is a breakfast option for losing weight, but with just over 100 calories, I wouldn't call this breakfast at all. I mean, this would be great with some fruit or a piece of toast with some nut butter, but all on its own, it's just straight up protein plus some artificial sweeteners and stimulant. I would maybe do this as a post-workout, but even still, I would want to pair it with some fruit, oatmeal, or toast. Let's see her weight loss lunch idea.
Potato slices with a tuna salad and my avocado toast. Absolutely no Miss Remi Ashten meal would be complete without any crushed red pepper and, of course, everything but the bagel seasoning. There's avocado on everything in my life.
Okay, so this looks pretty good. We've got lots of healthy fats from the avocado, protein from the egg and tuna, some fiber-rich veg, and some carbs from the bread. And that's actually one of my favorite breads because it's fiber-rich and really hearty. Now, of course, I think there's room for a second slice for her tuna salad if she wanted it, but there is still at least 40 grams of carbs here, so it's not keto low. And with her PCOS diagnosis, the combination of the fiber-rich bread with lots of healthy fats and protein is a great way to manage those blood sugars. Let's check out dinner.
I did it up. It looks so good. This looks like it's straight up from a ramen bar. Got this furikake Japanese multi-purpose seasoning. Can we focus? That is our veggie-filled, 0-calorie ramen.
Okay, so we've got a whopping 40 grams of protein here from the chicken and egg, fat from the oil and sesame seeds, and lots of fiber-rich veg. I'm sure this is really satiating, and I love me a big bowl of ramen. Having said that, it is pretty low in carbs and pretty high in protein, with about 20 grams and 40 grams respectively. So if she wanted to throw in some high fiber sweet potato or do half and half shirataki and whole grain noodles, she could totally do it without being an issue for her PCOS. Again, if Remi really likes the water noodles and she finds that the extra protein at dinner helps her with her weight loss, or she would rather sneak in some more carbs with dessert, that counts as solid balance in my books as well. Let's take a look at dessert.
I'm a fan.
When you get a taste of, oh, the salt,
That was pretty good.
that was really good. Good job. Definitely gonna freeze them a little more. The salt is so good. Put salt on top.
Those look so good, and I actually have recipes on my blog for homemade Twix and Snickers bars, so I'll definitely leave some links to that below. But I love that Remi is freestyling this recipe, and also that we've got some healthy fats and a little fiber and protein from the almond flour to really balance out the natural sugars in those dates and dark chocolate. I mean, for those of you who don't want to make a chocolate bar from scratch, I also think that there's nothing wrong with having an actual Twix bar too, especially in the context of Remi's dinner, which was so rich in fiber, protein, and healthy fats. But for a more balanced everyday sweet, that looks great. All right, so we've made it through the meals. Now for the big question, is this way of eating balanced? So according to my calculations, Remi is consuming between 1,350 calories and 1,550 calories a day, eating a relatively lower carb, higher fat, high protein diet. I get that she is on a weight loss journey while also trying to manage her PCOS, but I would worry that especially on days that she's working out, this just might not be enough fuel. If we look at the body of research on the low carb versus low fat debate, we can see why more people are gravitating towards the former. While there are a lot of large studies that suggest there's no statistical differences in weight loss over time between a low carb and a low fat diet, others do show more weight loss with low carb diets, along with other improvements in other lab values like blood sugar and blood cholesterol levels. This is likely because fat and protein are just more satiating than carbs, particularly those that are higher in the glycemic index or lower in fiber. The downside is that a lot of these studies take place over relatively limited time frames, and compliance is generally poor. In other words, we really don't know how sustainable these diets truly are. The few that we do have that are a bit longer generally show that weight loss tends to even itself off at around the 1-year mark. So there really isn't a huge difference between low fat and low carb diets. It's mainly just like a personal preference. Also, if the evidence on weight regain is any indicator, I think it's safe to assume that weight cycling or yo-yo dieting is always a major concern. Specifically in the context of PCOS, I know it's often recommended that people with PCOS avoid or reduce carbs or go on restrictive diets to manage their symptoms. But as I talked about with my colleague Julie Duffy-Dillon in this video here, these recommendations often can do more harm than good by increasing cortisol, testosterone, and a pro-inflammatory state through weight cycling that is already heightened with PCOS. Interestingly, in a video released right before the video where Remi addresses her PCOS diagnosis, Remi talks about how she gained weight back over the holidays from less strict adherence to her diet. But the silver lining was that she actually got her period back. This may be a sign that the calorie-restricted, carb-restricted diet that Remi has been using to lose 60 pounds may have caused or be causing some hormonal dysregulation. Now, I'm not saying that losing 60 pounds through a lower carb or lower calorie diet was bad for Remi's PCOS or general health. It may in fact be beneficial. I mean, that is not for me to judge. I don't have her lab work. I'm not her endocrinologist. What is healthy for one person may be unhealthy for another. But this is just a message for all of my viewers, particularly those with PCOS, that managing your health does not necessarily require restriction or massive weight loss. I'm a big believer in an additive approach to food rather than always focusing on removing foods, both with weight loss and with PCOS management. And for a lot of people, just adding a source of fat or protein to a carb-rich meal that you love is a lot more sustainable and a more balanced approach. Having said all of that, the two biggest concerns that I have with the general public going super low carb is A, sustainability and the risk of it resulting in some kind of binge from restriction, and B, not getting enough antioxidants and fiber. Restriction-wise, I don't hear a lot of negative discussion around food. It sounds like she's just choosing foods that she enjoys, and with the exception of some cheat day behavior, which I will discuss momentarily, it doesn't really sound like she's starving herself or that this restriction is impacting her quality of life. And nutrition-wise, based on the foods that she's choosing, I'm not really particularly concerned about fiber or antioxidants either. In fact, the few nutrients of concern I did see in her analysis were vitamins D3, omega-3s, and iron, all of which largely come from fat-rich foods, not carbohydrates. So if she isn't already, she may want to consider a supplement or just upping her intake of foods fortified with D3, fatty fish, flax or chia, or adding more fish, beans, lentil, tofu, or dark leafy greens for extra iron. This may also help her just add more variety to her protein rotation, as I'm seeing mainly just poultry and eggs. So unless there's an intolerance that I just didn't catch, I definitely think that there's some room for some more fish and some plant-based options as well. I did shoot this video a while ago, so I revisited her channel to see how her eating may have changed. And while it was still relatively low in carbs, some of her vlogs did include a little bit more carbs in her meals from things like chickpea pasta, sushi with rice, protein oatmeal, and avocado toast. So it sounds like she's finding a way of eating that is sustainable to her, which is great. Now, are there any problematic claims on this channel? Nothing major I'm seeing. I mean, yes, a lot of Remi's content is weight loss focused, but she also often acknowledges that she's not an expert and is just sharing her journey. And most importantly, the tips that she does offer are relatively benign. She's not telling her followers to purposefully starve themselves. She's not telling anyone about dangerous cleanses or super problematic supplements for the most part. I think her weight loss method comes down to physical activity, reducing calories, and keeping her carbs relatively low, but not keto. But of course, if you find weight loss content triggering, then for sure this channel is just not for you. I will say that in watching her channels, I heard the word clean more times than I would have liked, but you know, I do fully acknowledge that this is just so deeply ingrained in our culture, it is a hard word to unlearn. I also have seen a lot of cheat days on her channel, which I think speaks to the problem with dieting in general, but more specifically may suggest that Remi's diet may be just too restrictive to sustain. Does that mean that if you want to lose weight, you should never have a day of eating more than you would normally, or more sugary or more fatty foods than usual? No, not at all. Like, there's one video where she's having a cheat day at Disney World. I would also want to try out all the fun fair foods at Disney, even if those were not part of my usual diet. But often by labeling these days as cheat days, even just in your own mind, we throw ourselves into a restrict binge cycle that just doesn't feel good. Not physically and not emotionally either. That may not be an issue for Remi, and I will say that her cheat days are not as extreme as a lot of the eating challenges that I've discussed on my channel previously. But now, just knowing her PCOS diagnosis, I would really urge her to take a more balanced approach, allowing herself to have more of these beloved treats peppered throughout her diet, especially if paired with a source of fiber or healthy fats or protein, may help her better manage her condition in the long run. And finally, what good can we take away from Remi's channels? Well, honestly, I love Remi. I just do. I mean, she's fun, she's funny, and has an insane amount of infectious energy, so I can see why she has such a huge following. I think her recipes are also really simple and accessible and ultimately look really good. With the exception of the protein powder, pre-workout, the IV thing, and the shirataki noodles, which are really not hard to find in 2020, her meals are based around ingredients that most of us have at our home. And despite trying to lose weight or maintain her weight loss, she actually has a relatively laid-back approach to food. I haven't seen her weigh out every strawberry or use a ton of really diety, sugar-free, fat-free foods with the exception of the sugar-free syrup. She cooks with modest amounts of oil and prepares sauces and recipes without measuring every little thing out. That is kind of refreshing to see in the weight loss space. I'm also not seeing massive, overwhelming portions of lettuce seasoned with sugar-free syrup and hot sauce juxtaposed against 10,000 calorie challenge videos. So I think that even within the context of weight loss, she's a pretty healthy role model for a lot of young girls. Bottom line, I really like Remi's channel, so I'm glad that you guys all introduced me to her content. I think it's nice to see a YouTuber whose whole identity is not wrapped up in weight loss or their appearance or a specific way of eating, and that she has a lot of really super fun aspects of her life to share as well. Well folks, that is all for today. If you like this video, be sure to give it the thumbs up. Leave me a comment below with who you'd like to see me review next. Subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time on Abby's Kitchen. Bye!